or Friday morning for those of you that are virtual. We're getting some technical stuff handled with Lewis, I guess. It looks like he's moving now. He looks like he's
You
not
guys hear
frozen
me?
up. So what's up, Lewis? Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Awesome.
Excellent. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. And yourself?
Excellent. We got
Oh,
Jenny
sorry.
and Glenn on the front too here.
Yep,
Gotta get
yep.
Lewis up.
Yep.
Cool.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, so we're gonna jump into it in a couple of seconds here. I appreciate Lewis taking time out of his day, especially a Friday afternoon, and also dealing with a
Of course.
couple of reschedules with the holidays and also with the technical challenge we had. I'm really excited to pop into the conversation, just to kind of set expectations. Right now, we're inside of the Facebook group that we have called the Real Estate Investing Mastermind. So we're broadcasting live in there. We're also, we have some folks from our private coaching group called the Growth Collective inside the Zoom with us. So if you are listening to this message and you are a client of the Growth Collective, you could also get that Zoom link inside the private Facebook group. Lewis is a really humble man, but somebody that I'm excited to call a friend and a person that we can do a lot of business with. We've done business with actually over the years in different ways, and lots of amazing stories that I'm sure he could share. Maybe not every one today because he's got a couple thousand transactions under his belt, but somebody who's been in the space for quite a while and someone that could really educate you guys about specifically the auction process and the sheriff sale process and just foreclosures in general. So I'm going to do some talking, but it's going to be mostly Lewis. I'm going to ask a lot of questions, try to get some information as far as how people can benefit from what Lewis knows from his couple of decades of experience. If you guys are listening to us inside the Facebook group, go ahead and use the comments to ask your questions. There'll be a time. We'll try to go for about a half an hour or so for Lewis. I know he has a hard stop, I think around 1:45. So we're going to try to do about a half an hour of question and answer back and forth. And we'll leave some time for questions, but for questions answered from me, I should say, to him and having him answer. And then you guys can obviously populate your questions inside the Facebook group or inside the Zoom if you're on Zoom with us. So Lewis, man, what's going
Yes,
on?
sir.
How you doing? What's
I'm
going on?
doing amazing. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on today, and congratulations on this very, very successful group that I see that you put together. This is not easy to get this many people together and get them excited.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's about a team effort. So I got to give credit to my staff as well. JDL Ventures, Joe's there, Ellie's up top. I know Candace is somewhere floating around probably as well. And got a lot of other folks behind the scenes helping make things happen. So I appreciate them, and wouldn't be able to do this without their help. I know you know what that's like because you've been a business owner for quite a while and you've had brokerages and you've had different businesses. So man, why don't we just jump right into it? Tell us about like how you kind of got started in real estate. You know, the old question, like where did you start? Was it foreclosures? Was it something else? Was it traditional real estate? You know?
Oh, well, thank you, man. I'm honored to actually be in a position to share this information with you guys, because I remember it wasn't too long ago that I had no idea how to even break into the market. I had no idea how people were able to find good deals, find money, put things together. I remember I used to I used to work with an investor when I was kind of still green in real estate as a real estate agent, because that's where I started my career as a real estate agent. I remember talking to an investor and saying, hey, how is it that you always find these good deals where you can renovate them and then flip them for more money? And he was saying, well, it's very easy. After you do one or two, you start to build a reputation for yourself, and the deals end up coming to you. They find their way to you. And I'm like, BS. I'm like, that's not true. It can't be that easy. But it really is that easy. You really just need to do your first one, because your first one is always going to be the hardest deal, no matter what it is, whether it's your first flip or your first long-term hold, or maybe your first commercial deal or first apartment building, whatever it is, it's always going to seem like it's very hard in the very beginning. And I remember what we're going to talk about today. I remember when I first got into share sale investing, the first property we ever purchased at a share sale was very difficult too, because it was very intimidating. It was a long process before I could even understand what was going on, because believe me, the guys and girls at the sheriff sales, they're not meeting you up afterwards and being like, hey, you want to know everything about sheriff sales? They're kind of doing the opposite.
Right.
They kind of look at this new guy over here. Let's bid him out of the room so he can come back, or let's make fun of them until they kind of like get intimidated. That's the kind of environment that you see in a lot of places, which led me to even want to know more, because if I figured if the secret is that well kept, then there's got to be some value here. And there definitely was, and I ended up educating a lot of people on it. I ended up meeting a representative of auction.com at one of the sheriff sales one day, and that led to a very fruitful relationship with auction.com, where I ended up being a trainer of some sort for them in New Jersey when they first started coming up with this program where they would have meetups every single week, and they would need someone to educate their first-time investors on how to buy an auction property or how to buy a
Wow.
property, period, from their website. So that was a very good relationship that we built there, and I taught thousands of people, the process and how it worked. Not to mention the
Lewis,
people
I
that
got to
worked
cut in.
with
I
me.
apologize. I don't mean to
Yeah,
interrupt you, but I just want to make sure people capture what you're saying right now. So just what Lewis just said, and just look at his demeanor, the way he's just a cool dude, like just doing business, making things happen. But he's talking about auction.com, like the website, auction.com. They had him, this man sitting in front of you guys talking to you today, be the trainer for investors that are newer to auction.com's platform, learn how to buy through auction.com. Is that what you just said? I just want to make sure that's clear for
yeah,
everybody.
through auction.com, but also at the sheriff sales, because auction.com gets a commission every time a property gets sold at a sheriff sale. A lot of people don't know this, but if that property is on auction.com's website and they're advertising that it's going to sheriff sale or trustee sale, where you guys might be in a different state, if it's going to foreclosure sale and it's on auction.com's website, auction.com gets a commission on that. Wouldn't you guys like to be in that business where you get a
Yeah,
little piece of every deal?
that's right.
Right.
That's
So
right.
they had me educating them on how to buy them at the auction sale, because there's no instruction manual on how to do these things. So I felt there was a huge opportunity there, and we made a lot of money. We made not only money for ourselves, but we made a lot of money for our investors too, and people that we'd want to partner up with us and learn how to work with us as a real estate company to get properties for themselves. Now, you guys can do this for yourselves. You can do it for others. The opportunity is really, there's no ceiling on it, what you could do with this stuff. But eventually, what you're going to end up doing is creating this nonstop flow of inventory. Because in real estate, sometimes there's inventory on the MLS, sometimes there's not, sometimes there's opportunity in flyer, sometimes there's not. Well, with auctions, it's like every week or every 2 weeks, depending where you are, there's always a new batch of properties that are coming your way. So if you miss this one, don't sweat it. You get the next one. And then sometimes there's properties that pop up at the last minute that you might be able to get a good deal on. So that's why I really enjoyed learning the auction process, because I felt it was like a spigot that you could turn on and off whenever you need it. It was like a never-ending flow of deals. Now, after the pandemic, obviously that changed a little, because there was a moratorium and there was a backlog and all this craziness that was going on. I'm sure you guys understand, but not a lot has changed. As a matter of fact, some processes have even gotten better. A lot of processes in different parts of the country are now online, which means you no longer have that intimidation factor. You no longer have to worry about finding parking at the last minute, right? And you don't have to worry about being a new guy in the room or a new girl in the room. This is now level the playing field. As long as you know what you're doing, you can make a lot of money. So that's
Lewis,
a little
if
bit.
I could cut on that, that's a really good point though. So I want to, again, to kind of contextualize for the group, because a lot of folks here may never have actually gone to a sheriff's sale. So maybe we could talk about that, the kind of experience in New Jersey, at least, or wherever you've been physically in the room, because I think it's like important to paint that picture, like the new guy walking in, the intimidation factor, as he called it. So it's like, Tony Robbins says, like, complexity is the antithesis for execution. So the auction process kind of seems complex, and let alone you go to the sheriff's sale, you go into this room with these sharky investors. Like, take us through some of that experience, the psychology, and kind of like you kind of alluded to it when you opened up, and then now how that's been normalized with what you're saying.
Sure. I'll give you guys a quick story. I remember walking into the sheriff's sales, and when I started going to them, they used to take place in a very small room. So, you couldn't even sneeze in that room without someone seeing you, like, or hearing you, right? It was a very, very small knit group of investors. So whenever a new guy would show up, you would recognize some faces from around the industry, but but you might have been their friend on the outside. But if you showed up to one of these things, they would look at you sideways, because you were infringing on their cash cow, really what it was. Nobody wanted to tell you that you make any money on there. People used to try to actually decentivize you from going there and give you like these nightmare stories and tell you like, oh, you can lose a lot of money with these things, or you can't get in these properties, and you end up inheriting a nightmare. So when you first go into one of these rooms, you kind of just have to go there as the fly on the wall, and just to understand the lay of the room and understand what, who the players are and how the process goes. Because there's no two, in New Jersey especially, there's no two counties that do it exactly the same. It's so archaic is probably the best way to put it. But the main laws never change, which means that the way a foreclosure works, it doesn't change no matter what county you go to or what state you go to. But what does change is their processes and their procedures. So that's what you have to kind of understand. So when I went in there, it took me probably a good 6 months before I was ever even courageous enough to raise my hand and bid on a property. And I'll tell you, that first moment when I did that, I had so many butterflies in my stomach, and everyone turns their head to see, who's that voice that's bidding? We've never heard that voice or that name, because when you bid, you have an alias, or you can use your own name, but most people come up with an alias or their LLC name or whatever it is. So I used to always bid Culture. That was the name of our company. When they first heard Culture in that room, everyone turned their head and was kind of like, oh, here we go. There's the new person now, throwing their hat in the ring. So it was very intimidating, but quickly, once you do buy a property, it starts to get much easier, and it starts to build a reputation for yourself. Now, some of you may still have to go through those steps, and believe me, it's not going to be as difficult as it used to be, because now there are a lot of new players that come in. It's more of open type of environment. But I will tell you that there's no better feeling than going in on a sheriff's sale once you've been educated, once you understand all the inner workings behind the scenes, because it's really not that difficult. It's just shrouded in mystery and a lot of misnomers. So if you can understand what your responsibilities are as a bidder and as a buyer, and what you can and can't do, then it all becomes very much normalized and very easy. One of the advantages that you have in New Jersey is that you don't have to close right away. And you have, a lot of times, depending on what county you go to, 30 days to close. Sometimes I push them out as far as like 60, 90 days. Like it's pretty ridiculous how much time the county gives you to close on these properties, which means you could then go and get hard money lending if you get the deed at the time of payment. So that opens up opportunities for a lot of people. And we did it that way a lot of times. And that even gives you that window, that 30-day window, to find someone else to maybe assign your bid to, because that's one thing that a lot of people don't even realize you can do with sheriff sales is if you have enough time, you can go in there, win a bid today for $200,000, walk out, and then someone might approach you. Somebody in that room might approach you and say, hey, listen, I really wanted that property, but I didn't know how to go about it. Would you sell it to me for, 210, 220? We've done some that have been 6 figures as an assignment. So
like after you win the bid, you're just like kind of walking out the room and people are like, hey, I want that one. You got it. What's it going to take to take you out of it, kind of thing?
Absolutely. I've even seen guys list the properties on the MLS and get buyers for them. Yep. I'm telling you.
Wow.
So there's a lot of
awesome.
opportunity you guys can do with sheriff sales. And look, I'm going to tell you right now, in real estate, you got to have a lot of streams. You just can't rely on one thing. You might get a good deal from sheriff's sale this month, and next month it might be from the grocery store, from talking to the clerk. You just don't know where you're getting your next deal. But not having sheriff sales as an avenue, I think, is a disadvantage for any investor, because let's just say that you had your offer. Let's just say you had an offer on a property that you got from the MLS, and that property was in foreclosure. If that property does not get adjourned, or you do not get enough time from the bank in order for you to finalize your purchase on that property might go to foreclosure, might go to sheriff's sale. So if you don't know how that process works, you might just give up at the onset of knowing that it's going to the sheriff's sale next week. And instead, now you can go to the sheriff's sale and maybe even get it at a better price than what you had it locked in for. So it's just good for every investor to know that part of that segment of the industry.
Yeah, excellent. Well, one of the questions I wrote down was kind of maybe whatever you feel comfortable sharing as far as a story to kind of paint the dynamic of like either the most challenging deal you've had, or something that was from an auction that was just like amazing. Like, oh my goodness, I didn't know you could do that kind of thing. If you can share it, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Oh, sure. So I'll give you a really good one, then I'll give you a slightly bad one, right? So, or the worst things that can happen. So one of the best transactions, and I hinted at it earlier today, one of the best transactions I ever seen at a sheriff's sale was a property in Ocean County. I think it was Ocean County. It was either Ocean or Monmouth County, one of the two. We ended up, I had a good friend who I used to do a lot of business with. He wasn't an agent with my office, but he was an investor that I did a lot of business with. He calls me up. He said, hey, Lewis, I got this beach house that I just locked up at a sheriff's sale. Let me know if you have any buyers. So then I sent the email to my agents at the office. I think they wanted like 500 or 525 for this property. And one of my agents comes back to me and was like, hey, Lewis, I took a ride down to the house and I started talking to the neighbors, and turns out one of the neighbors wants to buy that house. I was like, oh, that's great. He's like, yeah, I sold it to him for $120,000 more. I'm like, what? I'm like, seriously?
Wow.
And the guy's name is Paul. And he's like, yeah, I didn't think he'd go for it, but I offered him to for 650. I'm like, okay. All right. So then what we did was we then locked up the property, and we did an assignment for $120,000 to our office. And we did so well on that property that I think this kid took the rest of the year off. You know, he did really well with that just one transaction. But you can
Yeah.
find these deals because you just never know if you're at the right place at the right time. Now, there's obviously some nightmare scenarios too, which, you know, sometimes a property could come with liens that you don't know about. So one of the things that can happen, it can go wrong. I know another investor from New York. He used to buy a lot in Bergen County. And this is before, he never worked with me specifically on buying sheriff sales, but he did go buy one himself one day in Bergen County. And it turns out that the poor guy ended up bidding on the wrong mortgage. So what I mean by that is that
Oh,
properties sometimes carry more than one mortgage. You guys remember the days of the 80-20 loans or the HELOCs or the credit lines? Well, sometimes the second mortgage forecloses on the property. So if you don't know how to read title, or if you don't know how to read the if you do a little bit of research on properties, you don't even need to have a title agent involved. You can actually find mortgages that have been recorded on a property by going through the tax records or going through the county records, right? So he didn't do any of that. He just showed up, and he thought that he got like a $400,000 house. He thought he got it for like 100 grand because that's how much the second mortgage was for. So he was super stoked and happy and everything. And then come to find out, he didn't realize that he ended up buying the wrong mortgage because there was still a first mortgage on it. And in the foreclosure world, any mortgage that is not first position, so any mortgage that is not first position gets wiped out if you buy the first position. So let's just say there's a first, second position mortgage. If you bought the first one, the second one gets wiped out. If you buy the second one, the first one's still active, and you still owe that. So you can take ownership. You have ownership of that property, but it still has this huge lien against the property. So if you go to flip it, you got to pay that off. So then he ended up being underwater on that property. He tried to give it back to the bank. He tried to undo the sheriff's sale, and he couldn't. So he ended up, you know, buying a home that wasn't worth what he paid for. But those things happen. And, you know, you could get caught, you know, buying the wrong lien, or maybe buying a home with a lien that you didn't know was there because you didn't do the proper due diligence. So that's one of the worst things that can happen, but you can be avoided if you just do a little research. It takes literally, once you get good at it, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes to do research on any single property. You keep all that data on a spreadsheet, and then you feel very confident when you go to bid on a property. And that's pretty much it, guys. It's not that
okay.
hard.
What about the sourcing process? I mean, is there, that's part of what you kind of focus on with some of your course and your educational side of thing, I think, right? As far as how any key nuggets or takeaways as far as what to do or what not to do with sourcing, which properties to bid on and things like that?
Yeah, sourcing properties. So in a lot of states and counties, you don't get what's called the upset amounts. So you don't get you don't get to find out what the banks are going to actually take for the property. Or let me give you guys a little terminology, right? The upset amount is what the bank is owned, right? So let's just say that the mortgage that the person had on the house was 300 grand. They hadn't paid it in a year. So with the mortgage, unpaid payments, late fees, attorney fees, and all these other fees that they add on, let's just say the bank is owed $400,000 now. If the bank is owed $400,000, that's called the upset. Okay, that's what they're owed. But there's also another term you may hear, which is called the drop. The drop is what the bank is willing to take the day of the sale. Now, in this market, nowadays, the banks are actually, their upsets are less than what their homes are worth, because we had so much appreciation in the last few years that sometimes when you see that the upset is 250, but the market value of the house is 400, you're like, I don't even care if the bank takes a drop on this, because 250 is still a good deal for this house. But in the old times, when houses were majority upside down, you would look for what's called the drop price. Now, in most counties, in most states, you don't get the drop price ahead of time. In Florida, a lot of banks do disclose their drop price ahead of time. They tell you what they're going to accept. So in New Jersey, some counties would give you the drop price the day of the sale. When you show up, they'd have this pinned up on the board. This is what we're going to take on this one. This is what we're going to take on that one. This is what we're going to take on that one. So you'd have to do research on all of them and be prepared for all of them, just in case one of them was a good deal. So what I've come to find out is that in Florida, if you guys are in different states, it's completely different. they give you the upsets on what the properties are going for. So you can just research those. And if those make sense, then you get yourself prepared for those properties. And in New Jersey or in another state, if you guys might be in New York, the data is very hard to get. But if you're in New Jersey, what I recommend you is stay within your comfort level. So for what I mean by that is that if you have the capacity of buying a $300,000 home, don't go researching $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 homes because you're wasting your time unless you're just trying to practice. Stay between, you know, that $100,000 to $300,000, and then just research all of those, because you just never know which one's going to get the drop. So that's the way that I source them. Now, the way that you would source them by finding out the addresses is you just go to the county's website. You go to the clerk. You just Google, let's say, Union County Sheriff Sales if you're in New Jersey, or you can look up Broward County Sheriff Sales if you're in Florida, or something like that. So you just look that up, and it'll bring you to a website. Sometimes in some cities or counties, you don't have to create a login or like an account. And here in Florida, you do have to create an account, but it's cool because it's very easy to get. You don't need to have any special licensing or anything like that. And the process from that point is very easy. You just need to, you know, do the due diligence like I explained to you. And if you are going to bid on a property, you have to be prepared for the sale, which means that you have to have either cashier's checks ready to bring with you the day of the sale, or if it's online, you have to have a 5% to 20%, depending where you are, deposit with the sheriff's department in their escrow account a day before the sale takes place, so you can be already vetted and allowed to bid on those properties. Makes sense?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of details there. So tell us a little bit about the educational side of what you do to give us some ideas of, like you said, you coached or educated people from auction.com process, the sheriff's sub process. You have culture estate. I mean, take us a more well-roundedness of like what you do kind of day to day nowadays.
So I used to coach a lot of people through auction.com pro bono, just because it was a symbiotic relationship, which to me meant, look, I'm going to help you guys grow your presence and your brand here in New Jersey, but at the same time, you guys have a huge platform, and you're going to introduce me to a lot of new people that I didn't know before. Plus, it gave my agents an opportunity to go to these seminars and rub elbows with investors. So it was a win-win all around. But other than that, I would do a lot of education for my agents in our office, and I used to do a lot of video and a lot of content around that. Since then, we've gone virtual because after the pandemic, there's no need for an office. So we do everything virtually now. And I've come up with a program because so many people have asked me the same questions over and over again about sheriff sales and how to do sheriff sales and how do you get started and all the things I wish I knew when I got started. And there isn't a real estate program out there. There isn't any courses or books that you can buy that educates you on the sheriff sale procedures. I've never found one. If you guys know of one, awesome. But aside from maybe paying 30 grand for like one of these master courses, they may touch on sheriff sales and they're probably not even experts in it. I felt like, you know what, let me just create something that is specific to just sheriff sales, because it's a real niche thing. You know, it's kind of like saying, you know, I need open heart surgery, and you're just not going to go to a general practitioner. You know, even though they may know how to bring down your cholesterol or calm your heart rate, but they're not going to know how to do the operation. So the same thing applies to real estate, because, you know, when you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars, you want to make sure that you're doing things the right way. So I'll show you guys very quickly, if you guys will allow me. I'm not able on this table. So if you guys can give me
can we get screen share capacity for Lewis? And as you're doing that, I'm going to ask the folks on Facebook, if you hear us, I see we have like about 30 folks, 35 folks listening live right now. If you guys could do us a favor and comment where you're based out of and what brought you here specifically, kind of give us a pseudo introduction. I'm looking at the screen here. What makes you interested in real estate investing, or, you know, just specifically auction properties? And if you have a question, start populating those questions on Facebook and also inside the Zoom meeting for the TGC folks. We're also going to talk about what Lewis has here. We're going to talk about a promo offer for you guys to take advantage of what he offers. So more to come on that. He's going to show you on the screen what it is first, and we're going to talk about what that could mean for you. So Lewis, are you able to do a screen share now, or Joe can get you the right?
Let me try that. Yeah, I can do a screen share now. Awesome. Okay, so what I'm going to show you guys right now is just kind of an overview of what our program covers. This is the workbook that comes along with the program that I created. Now, the program is very simple to learn, because it's a series of small videos that brings you through basically 3 steps. 3 steps, but within each step, there are certain things you have to learn. So I think it's somewhere around like 30 modules that you're going to receive and you're going to get in order for you to know every single process step by step. So what I'll show you guys right now is kind of like what that would entail, right? So this is let me show you what's inside. Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, so the first thing, that I always very much implore anybody to do is figure out what is your goal. Is your goal to learn this kind of business, or is your goal to actually take action and buy a house within X amount of days, X amount of weeks, X amount of months, whatever that may look like? So, I always start off with make a plan. When I first stepped into a sheriff's sale department, my plan wasn't to go bid that day. My plan was to go and learn and understand and figure it out to see if there's anything there. Am I getting better deals through short sales, or am I getting better deals through sheriff sales? And for a lot of you guys may be getting great deals, somewhere else. This could just be something that you could add to your tool belt of getting business. So now we have to also be honest with ourselves. What am I really good at? What am I not so good at? What partners do I still need? What missing pieces of my puzzle do I still need to work on? So you guys can kind of take a realization, a snapshot of where you are and where you could improve. Because let's just say that I'm a great networker, or I'm great at door knocking, but I'm terrible at organization and I don't know how to write a contract. You have to be real with yourself on where you need someone to kind of help you out with, right? Next thing, program content. So in phase 1, you're going to find out the finding the auctions, right? What types of auctions are there? Because there are auctions for sheriff sales, and then there are also auctions for REOs, properties that are already owned by banks, and those get auctioned off as well. So finding the auctions online and finding your sheriff sales online, right? That's what you're going to learn in phase 1. In phase 2, you'll learn the different types of funding that you could utilize for purchasing sheriff sale properties. In some places, like in Florida, some counties will require you to pay the balance of the money the next day. So if I go today and I win a property for $300,000, I have to leave 5% that day. So I have to pay up 15 grand that day, but the next day I have to pay 285,000. So in some cases, you must have that money ready. And a lot of hard money lenders do not turn around in 24 hours, time, unless you have like some kind of revolving credit line with them. But keep that in mind. So you'll learn a lot about this and different ways you can get funding, from very easy sources all the way to getting friends and family involved in creating like a fund structure kind of. Then we've got a comp searches, right? Because how do you know what the price of the house is and how much you should bid on it? Is by doing comps. And doing comps is one of my specialties. And I've obviously been doing comps now for probably close to 20 years. I've broken it down to a very easy way for anyone to be able to do, even if you don't have the MLS. Okay, so we go over that. You're going to get also profit calculators. These are calculators that I personally have built that you guys can utilize to figure out how much money you're actually going to make on that deal. It allows you to start with the profit first. So if you want to make $50,000 on this property, all you have to do is fill in how much you're willing to pay for it, or how much you think you're going to pay for it, how much you think the construction is going to be, how long you're going to hold it for, what the utilities are going to be, and every single line item, even things you'll never think of. So it's a soft cost, buying and selling, those things cost you money. The realtor, the attorney, all these things cost money. So you put that into the calculator, and then it spits out at the bottom what you should pay for it if you want to make 50K. And if you're like, I don't think I'll get it for that price, let me adjust this to 40,000. Then it adjusts everything, and it tells you then you can pay this much. All right. So it's a really great tool to use in order for you guys to just get kind of like a really detailed way of figuring out if this deal is going to make you money or not. Because one of the worst feelings in real estate is doing a deal that took you 6 months, a year, just to break even, or even worse, lose money. And you haven't been an investor long enough if you haven't lost money on a deal yet. Believe me, it'll happen one day. But you don't want to strive for those. So this really does help out. And then we have tips and best practices for getting yourself prepared for these sheriff sales. And then phase 3 would be how to win. So in how to win, you're going to figure out what are the best online strategies to win your bidding process. And then you're going to figure out also, and you're going to learn how to get the best strategies to win sheriff sales in person. That's going to be a very entailed, and that's going to be very, how would I say, that's going to be super detailed. So you're going to want to take notes on these things. And then your post-closing best practices, because once you win the bid, the job's not done. You still got to get that thing closed, right? And what could happen between the time that you close, that you win the bid, to the time that you actually have to show up with the money? And then when you take ownership, do you have time to run title? Should you run title? Do you need to get insurance? Should you get insurance? Like a lot of questions that people don't really know how to answer. We jump into all of those things. Then here you get a little bit of a cheat sheet to kind of show you where you can find your online auctions for REOs, where the best places are. Then here you're going to have your main takeaways from that. Next, you're going to get your cheat sheet for your foreclosure auctions and how you get yourself acquainted and how you find all those opportunities, and then your main takeaways. And then here in this part, the funding 101 takeaways, what some of your traditional sources are, what some of your alternative sources are, what your creative resources, or some of your creative sources might be. And then here we have the things that people don't really talk to you about, which are the hidden expenses. The hidden expenses are what could really hurt you on a deal. It could take you from, being 10% in a profit to being negative. A lot of these things don't really, people don't think about ahead of time until after the process has already been done. You got things like, there's a home in a flood area. Did I even check? Did I know? No one's going to be holding your hand for these things. So you have to kind of go through these things. Are there any liens against the property? Are there any city violations? Are there any auction premiums? What are the title costs going to be? Do I need builder's risk insurance? And if you guys don't know what builder's risk insurance is, then you definitely need to educate yourself in this space a little bit more. What are the auction premium? I'm sorry, we covered that. What are the HOA fees? What are some of the possible environmental costs? Especially in New Jersey with all those underground oil tanks, you got to be careful with that. Any unpaid utilities, because some utilities are considered lienable, which means they can cloud your title. You got to make sure you know what about those, because they could be a lot of money. Believe me or not, I bought a property not from a sheriff's sale, but as a short sale. And then later on, the Liberty Water came back and said that there was a $30,000 water lien on that property from the previous owner. But since I'm the owner now, hey, I got to pay for it. So we went kicking and screaming. Long story short, we ended up having to pay $6,000, not 30, but they were trying to get us for 30. So you guys have to learn these things before you purchase properties, because it could really end up costing you a ton of money. Unpaid taxes, do you need a survey? Should you get a survey? Loan fees, eviction costs, if there's tenants in the property, can you get rid of them? Can you not get rid of them? In what cases are you able to get rid of them, especially in New Jersey or New York? You want to make sure you know these laws. And then is there any debris that I have to pay for? Because if I don't get rid of it, hey, guess what? You're probably going to end up getting fines for that too. Some of the due diligence. This is your due diligence check sheet, which is the things that you have to check for before you even show up to the sheriff's sale. If you don't do these things, then you're not prepared. So you're going to get a lot of value. You're going to get a ton of things that you're going to be able to do. You're going to be a seasoned investor when it comes to sheriff sales by taking the shortcut and going through this course modules, because it really just it does sum up all of the information I was able to learn, through years of doing this, and it really just condenses it down to a very short course that you can take probably in a weekend's time, or maybe in a long weekend, one of those 3-day weekends, and then you guys could consider yourselves at least very knowledgeable.
Lewis, just to jump in for 1 second, I want to be clear. So I think folks know this, but what we're looking at is essentially the breakdown of a checklist and a workbook that Lewis and his team put together for their video course, specifically on sheriff sales and auctions, of how to be a buyer and do it successfully through that process. That's correct, right? I want to make sure that's what we're looking at here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be kind of like you take the course and then you keep the worksheet with you, because the worksheet is kind of a place where you can revert back to the information or know where the information is located if you have to go back to the modules. And once you get the modules, you have them for life. And we add more information as time goes by as well.
Lewis, I'd like to see if we could talk about this. We didn't get a chance to talk about this specifically, but the worksheet itself, is this something that you took time to put together? It's a tremendous amount of value. I believe you offer this for like sale, basically, for someone to buy this if they want to have this to go. So what does that look like? And just so people know, and then what would it do? And I guess maybe you take it from here as far as how you want to position it, but I think folks want to hear about the course too, just to think of, we have like in this group, like I said, we have folks that are part of the Growth Collective, which are part of our private coaching group. And then there's folks that are listening live that are just like kind of exploring or learning, or may not be part of our actual Growth Collective group. So there's gonna be different things there, but what is like the retail sort of like pricing, if you would, of what this looks like
Sure.
for someone that wants to borrow, use this or borrow the ideas and put it into motion?
Oh, absolutely. So let me go and I'll see if I can get us to the actual site.
Okay.
I can show you, I can go through that with you. Give me 1 second. I'll get you guys there.
Yeah, that's okay. And I know there's a link as well that you had given me, so I'm gonna make sure I put that
Yeah,
in.
make
Joe,
sure you put that up.
You have that link, or do you have that link? You can put that link into the Zoom and also into
Sure thing.
the group. So as Lewis is going through this, just so you guys understand, this is a guy that's done thousands or been part of thousands of transactions. As a real estate investor, he's run brokerages. He's a very humble man. Like I said, he's a man of faith. I know that because I know we've talked before.
Yeah.
And he's somebody that you want to listen to because he's willing to give. And he said before that most people, which is accurate, are sharky in this business of real estate, let alone the auction and foreclosure space. They're super unwilling to give information. In fact, they want us not to participate generally. So there's probably people watch this right now say, what are you guys doing? Are you crazy? Like you're just going to destroy the auction. But the thing is, they don't have the bigger picture of collaboration and joint venturing and the possibilities. And I just want to share a quick story while he's kind of bringing up what he's got there as just a quick backdrop. So we've done multiple as a company assignments of bid deals with multiple investors in New Jersey that have won auctions successfully and been able to have them work alongside us, or vice versa, you could say, to bring those opportunities to our network of investors and actually assign the bids to work out a deal like that. So, we've been around it, but I've also attended physical sheriff sale auctions, and I'll tell you, it is a little bit intimidating, even if you have experience. So to have somebody like Lewis to kind of show you the ropes and like take you through it step by step, and he's done this across thousands of people, is something that's super special. The stuff that you see on the screen, just what he's showing you, he's going to talk it through. This is what's available to anybody who's just listening in, and you guys can have a link that Joe just dropped. As far as the actual TGC group, as far as the Growth Collective members, you're going to have a special promo there for you to know that how this all looks and what it is and how it's different. But go ahead, Lewis, you can kind of take it from there.
Oh, absolutely. So what you're going to see right here is I know different people have different capacities and what you can afford and how serious you want to take your next steps. So if you want the workbook, which kind of gives you a bird's eye view and gives you kind of like a head start on where you are now, and maybe it gives you enough for you to be able to just do your own research and then maybe ask the right questions, then that workbook would cost you $97 if that's what you are willing to invest into your career and your business right now. If you want to take the course, which I said to you guys earlier, is probably all you're going to need in order to know enough to get yourself a good property and not make the mistakes that some people make. That's going to cost you $799, which is, to me, guys, I'll tell you right now, is a steal compared to it's a steal compared to what I had to go through, the time I had to invest in order to even be comfortable enough to make my first investment and make my first offer. You try to put a dollar value to each hour I was there doing those research, and it really does kind of save you time and really.
Lewis, can you show the breakdown? I remember seeing on a screen like what kind of the framework of that was, so people can kind of see the layout of the outline of the course, so they get an idea specifically what's kind of covered. Yeah, that'd be good.
So what you'll learn, right? I'm taking 20 years and condensing it down, 2,000 plus transactions and condensing it down to what you guys are going to learn. So as you can see here, this is the curriculum and what you have so far. So you're going to get the workbook included. You're going to get the calculators and templates. Now, just the calculators and the templates themselves, to me, I feel are probably worth the price of the course. The reason I say that is because these are tools that are going to allow you to be able to, I'm locked right now. These are tools that are going to be able to allow you to make sure that you're going to be profitable on deals. You're going to be more organized when it comes to preparing yourself for these sales. And it's also going to give you a way to figure out if properties are worth keeping or if they're worth selling, right? So is it a better flip than it is a long-term hold? All those things are going to be there in order for you guys to be able to use for it, as you will. Believe me, you definitely will use them. I've created these calculators years ago. I've shared it with my agents. They've shared it with their clients, and it's become a very valuable resource. Like I said, in phase one, you're going to find out about all of the possible places where you can find the sheriff sales. In phase two, these are all the modules. You're going to find out all about due diligence. How do you get ready? And then in phase three, you're going to figure out how to win the sales now that you've got the information that you need and what to do afterwards. And then we have some bonus content that I included in here, which are case studies. People love to learn from real life experiences. So I have in here for you 4 case studies of real transactions that I've been involved in, where you can see what we did leading up, what we did at the sale, and what we did afterwards. So that way you guys can kind of learn from real life examples. So that's what you're going to get in the training module itself for the $7.99. I do have one additional, where is it? Let me see. I think
While you're doing that, Lewis, and bringing that up, I just want to let everybody know that the Growth Collective members that are already part of the Growth Collective will have a 20% rebate on that number. Well, before I got the details, 20% discount at the $7.99 for being a part of the Growth Collective. Anyone who's not part of the Growth Collective, we could have a conversation. We're not here to like pitch an offer and like that. But if you want to learn more about the Growth Collective, we're going to give you a similar, if not the same incentive as part of your enrollment. So just a heads up on that. That's a limited time thing. We don't know how many people are going to go for it. I don't know if Lewis has a bandwidth to serve and support in whatever capacity, the number of students that were to come in and take you up on that offer. But, you know, just let us know if you have questions about it. But Lewis is going to show you, I think, another part of it. What is it, like the coaching side of things? Is that what you have there as well? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, one last thing I'll share with you guys, which I think is probably going to be something super valuable. I do have a one-on-one coaching option, which basically is me going through the entire course with you. But what I was going to talk to Doug about, and this is the first time Doug and I have even talked about this, and I'll throw it out there to see if it's something that your group would be interested in, is what you guys can do is Doug can figure out if we can do a group strategy where maybe you could take 5 students or 10 students at one shot. You come up with the price, Doug, that you think they would be worth for me to go through the strategies and the course with the students. We could do it over a course. We could do it over a 5 meetings over 5 weeks or something like that, where we can go through it together. And then
about a month.
You can get the one-on-one coaching with the Q&A, with everything you're going to need, and you could do it for a fraction of this price because we could work with scale.
Yeah, that sounds good. So just to clarify what Lewis is saying, so anyone who's listening, I love that. Thank you, Lewis, for making that available. So if you guys are interested in what he's talking about, specifically having a separate sort of subgroup within the Growth Collective, whether you're a Growth Collective member or you're not, this would be an offer available to you. You just got to kind of raise your hand. As far as how to do that, the Growth Collective folks can just let us know, in your Slack channel, and the folks that are listening in on Facebook right now can let us know either by sending a DM to me. You could just say auction. I know some of you have already commented auction on a different post to let us know you're interested in this meeting. But if you want the auction deal, let's say auction deal. How about that? Auction deal as a DM or a comment, whichever, and my team will monitor that. And then what we'll do is we'll work on getting a group. I would say, just to cap it out, probably no more than 10 for now. There might be more than that want to do it. We'll have to talk. Maybe Lewis and I will speak about that specifically. And I would say that deal will be probably limited until next Wednesday, just because we want to get people started as in next week. So we want to kick this off and get a group going, a subgroup within the Growth Collective within the next week or so. As long as Lewis is available to do that, I want to make sure he's available, his bandwidth. But we would do what, like once a week, a meeting essentially, Lewis, for 5 weeks straight.
Exactly. We could do something like that. That way we can go through it together. If they have questions on any segment of it, we learn from each other, and we can learn from each other's experiences too. If some of them have it already going, maybe halfway through, you feel comfortable enough to go to the sale, you come back, report back on what you learned and what questions you have.
Excellent. Excellent. That's awesome, man. So does anyone have any questions right now? Lewis has got to go in a couple of seconds here, but just a quick question or two, maybe from the TGC community. If anyone's live in the Zoom that wants to pop up to the front of the room, if you would, for a quick question, or, talk about maybe something you're going through or a situation you want to get Lewis's perspective on. And then I think he's got to go like basically now, but see if I can squeeze in a couple minutes out of him.
Yeah, no problem.
Anybody, I see Ellie, I see Jenny, I see Glenn, and also Joe, and I see Jasmine. Lisa, Alicia, how you guys doing? Good to see you. Jana's here. Nauman, Katie, Philip, Wendy, and Candace. You guys on Facebook can't see the folks here. Dawn and Vonnie as well. And I see some comments coming in and questions as well. So who has a question though for Lewis specifically? Is there anything you have right now? I'm kind of blown away. I mean, it's a great opportunity considering the amount of experience this guy has and what he's willing to do. That shows a lot about his character. I hope you guys can see that. And that's very much, he talks about culture. That's the name of his company, but his culture and the way he operates as a business owner, as a man in general, I think is very similar to the community that we want to create inside the Growth Collective. So that's why I feel like there's a lot of alignment of that vision and the strategy of collaboration and working together and helping each other. So, Lewis, anything else you want to add to that? While we're kind of waiting, if there's any questions before we wrap up? Anything else you want to bring?
Not so
Okay.
much. I mean, the only one thing I will leave you guys with, if there's no questions, is that it always seems impossible and out of your reach until you figure it out, right? Until you find a way. You know, I thought it was impossible for my family to get their first house when all we did was rent apartments and move every single year. I thought that owning one house was an impossibility. And, you know, fast forwarding with God's grace and being able to pursue my dreams, not only was I able to work in the real estate business, but own, I don't know how many homes I've owned up to this point. It just seems like, you know, you get to the point where you buy homes without even seeing them. If you would have told the 18-year-old version of me that I'd be buying homes without ever stepping foot inside of them, I would have told you were crazy, because we didn't even own one home. So what I'm telling you is that it always seems impossible until you start and you take that first step.
Absolutely. Hey, I'll sweeten the deal a little bit for anybody who's here listening live right now. And if you comment or message me and you're not currently part of the Growth Collective, we have a 90-day accelerator, which we could plug this into. The 90-day accelerator has its own cadence, its own plan, its own process. Lewis is a new addition, if you would, to this whole process as far as working together like this. We will throw in the group coaching with you if you're not currently a 90-day accelerator at some kind of discount. I'm not sure yet what that's even going to be, but just a heads up on that if you're interested in getting into real estate investing, let alone what Lewis is talking about, and you want to have two guys here helping lead you to that path of success, we're here to help you. For the folks in the room that are here inside the Zoom, I see that Candace says she's interested in flipping sheriff sales and auctions as a real estate agent or a wholesaler. What is the average discount off of the value of a sale? Like, what are you seeing as far as a discount, I guess, on the properties? Do you see a certain percentage or?
Oh yeah. Listen, you want a good deal is usually when you can pick something up for 65% of after repair value, depending on its condition, where depending on how much work it would need. So I'm seeing deals anywhere between 50 to 65% very often, and that's that golden area you want to be in. So you know, you just got to be patient, and sometimes you hit home runs, sometimes you hit a bunch of base hits, and you just got to be in it to win it.
Excellent. Yeah. And then also for those of you that are listening, again, just want to clarify if you caught this towards the end of the meeting, we're talking about Lewis has a course, a video course professionally done that he's offering for $7.99, but we are offering to the Growth Collective, I believe we said a 20% discount, right? So if you guys are not part of the Growth Collective and you want to take this course, you know, we can work out a deal where it's a package. So I just want to let you guys know to reach out to us directly, reach out to me, DM me, or comment on this conversation. We have one more question here. James on Facebook says, what about tax sales? Do you have a program for that? Is this considered anything to do with tax sales, or it's a different animal?
Yeah. No, so tax sales, that's a whole different animal, because with tax sales, what you're doing is you're trying to get yield, right? Because you're paying for someone's upset taxes. Let's say that might be $5,000 or something, and you're hoping to get double-digit yield on that money. Very seldomly will you be able to take that property back. You know, maybe, I don't even want to guess, but it's a very small amount of tax sales end up going into foreclosure. So just keep that in mind. It's a totally different ballgame. If you guys are just chasing yield, that might be something you get interested in. I personally have never, because it's not, you know, there's a term that says it's a juice worth the squeeze. For me, it wasn't. I was looking for properties. I wasn't looking for return. If I was looking for a return, there's a lot of other ways you can do that. Maybe by renting long-term properties. You can do it by putting your money in the S&P 500, you know, so there's a lot of other ways than just doing tax sales. But, you know, if I do know someone who does do it, tax sales specifically, I'll introduce you, Doug, and maybe you can offer that separately.
Excellent. Excellent. So Lewis, man, I so appreciate you being here and just kind of rolling with it and being who you are, just being a great person that wants to give and help and serve, and just really honored to call you a friend, man. I'm looking forward to continuing to collaborate here and really growing something pretty cool together. So I know you had to split, so I'm just going to kind of wrap it up for us for today. Lewis, if you have to get going, I'm going to hang for another few minutes, and then we'll definitely be in touch. Again, if you guys want to connect, find Lewis on Facebook. Is that cool? Or how do you want people to connect with you to learn more, how to also talk about things maybe further?
Oh, sure. They could, I'm pretty active.
Instagram or Facebook?
I'm pretty active on Twitter.
Twitter?
You can find me on Culture Estate. And
Culture Estate.
yeah, not so active on Facebook or Instagram. I try to detox myself from that. So if you need to get on me, the Twitter or my website, Culture Estate, either one.
Excellent. And just a heads up for the folks. Thanks, Lewis. Appreciate it, man. We'll
Take care,
definitely talk
everyone.
real
God
soon,
bless.
buddy. Have a good weekend. God bless you too, brother. Hey, so man, just blown away. This guy's got so much knowledge, and there's only so much time we have in a day to get through what he can share. We've got probably about 6 or 7 people inside of the Growth Collective already kind of raising their hands and they're interested in the group class. So that's going to fill up pretty fast. I don't want to say for sure, but I would say we have a handful of spots at this point, probably for the folks inside of the Facebook group that are not part of the Growth Collective. If you want to kind of have the Growth Collective experience, if you're not sure what that is, we should have a conversation with myself or someone from my staff, or if we're already in touch. We will find a way to loop this in if you want to take on, the group class with Lewis and myself, and as well as the Growth Collective. And if you just join the Growth Collective, same thing, we'll find a way to make it special for you. So just let us know. Let's have a conversation. And do you guys have any more questions? You guys are kind of quiet today. Maybe you're just blown away by the amount of information and the stuff he's shared about how he's flipped deals at the Sheriff's County auction, like right there when he walked out the door, how he dealt with the fact of how people are like sharky, and he's like kind of listening and observing, kind of just like understanding the process, right? That's kind of interesting. Being strategic about it, not just like jumping in and trying to dive head first, but actually being strategic. He's very diligent. He's a very, structured individual, and very, specific and very professional. So really excited about collaborating with him and really going forward here. So does anybody in the room here in the Zoom have any questions? Again, the Zoom is for the Growth Collective clients. So you guys will see that going forward inside of the Facebook group. You're going to have people that are inside the client base of the Growth Collective asking questions live if anyone wants to do that. And if you guys are on Facebook, just post it on a comment. We'll take it from there. Well, let's start with the Growth Collective. Anything you want to share, any aha moments or takeaways, anything you want to share with the rest of the room listening to this conversation today? Kind of open the floor to the Growth Collective. All right. You guys are shy today, I guess. Maybe it's just the middle of the day on a Friday afternoon.
Okay, I got a question. I'm wondering how do we get creative with financing if we don't have the cash on hand, but it might need to be brought to or paid the next day? It sounds almost
Right.
undoable for a lot of people.
So on that note, and I don't have the specifics from how Lewis coaches on this, but I'll tell you that I know buddies of mine and people that I've done business with in New Jersey, that what they would find is someone who has the cash to close on the purchase from the sheriff's sale. And then what they would do is called a delayed purchase to actually refinance into a construction loan, of which Real Direct Lending can help with. So essentially what you'd want to find is somebody who has liquidity to allow you to use that liquidity for about 30 days, maybe 45 max, to purchase the property at the sheriff's sale, and then go and start the refi process to get a construction loan to do the renovation, which we can help with. Real Direct Lending can, that is, and get you a delayed purchase. Once you own the property, we could refinance, pay off the investor for the majority of that, or you guys have some capital you could put towards that refi, right, to pay off the investor that you brought in full. And then you can then take on the renovation project to either keep the property or sell the property. But that's a strategy people have used. Again, Lewis may have another way, like just having a private lender, like just like you would in any transaction. The challenge with that is now you have to be able to align with that individual. So I know a couple of buddies of mine that would actually go, like the guy who would run the renovation would go to the auction, to the sheriff's sale with the private investor, so that they would talk and make sure that they're on the same page. They knew about the property. They would track the properties together. They would know exactly what they're getting into. And then once they went to the auction, it would be a clear decision like, hey, we're going to do this. And that's how they operated. But everybody's a little bit different. Sometimes organizations I've seen that go, because I say organizations, there are literally companies that will send representatives that do a lot of investing to sheriff sales to actually like raise their hand, bid on it. And then essentially, they have authority. They carry cashier's checks like in their pocket. And this was in New Jersey. They would go with multiple size checks to put down the 20% in a lot of counties in New Jersey that's necessary. And then they'd have the 30 to 45 days to close. So there's all different strategies, but that's where I think in general, like you all should know how to raise private money and have conversations for this exact reason. So you could operate nimble, be nimble, I should say, when you go to a sheriff's sale. But again, remember what he said too, Jenny and Glenn, is like, he said, a lot of times you can do this stuff virtually with auction.com, Hubzu, that kind of thing. So those individual platforms have different, that's why he has specific training on those as well. Specific things you could do as far as submitting earnest money deposits, getting money put up. It's not always 100%. And you could also do this virtually using those platforms. You could do it from, say, Florida, but in Texas, or you could do it from New Jersey in Florida, or whatever combination you want to come up with, which is pretty cool. So I hope that helps a little bit, and we'll dive in deeper for sure. We'll get clarity on that. It sounds like you guys are interested in kind of going to talk more about that too. So excited about that, and looking forward to diving in deeper.
Thanks.
Good stuff. Cannon says, never consider this technique. Yep. You have the credit and hold the loan, find a partner who wants to be silent, short-term private lender for 30 to 60 days for a good return. That's right. Absolutely. So Any other questions in the Growth Collective? And then also we have folks on Facebook. I'm trying to see. Agatha says, I'd like to get this info again because I joined late. No problem. It's going to be on a replay. So you should be able to see that inside the group. I'm going to make sure that the Growth Collective team can actually have this posted in a guide, which I believe it will be. So you guys can go back and listen. We may actually publish this also to our YouTube channel, which is really not, we're not doing a lot with that right now, but we're going to start doing more with that in the future. I'll just do one more shout out to the Facebook community to see if you guys have any questions. Last chance for today. And also inside the Growth Collective, I see a few faces up there still looking and thinking about questions maybe. And if not, that's okay. But just want to give you the opportunity. All right. If I was like an auctioneer, I'd be like, all right, last call or something. What are they saying? That would have been a cool thing to end it with, right? Like we're sitting in an auction, like it's your last chance. Am I having, what do they say? What's that saying? They say like, you know, going once, going twice, right? Need to jump to me, no sweat. Excellent. So we got another person in the room here, Lisa, that's looking to go ahead and actually join the group for this specialist group, if you would. And I see Deborah messaged me as well. So lots of interest, everybody. So this is cool. And some of you may not have seen this live. So be sure to check the replay out. Hopefully you could hear this. I'm going to ask for the Growth Collective team at JDL to please make sure that every person that said that they were interested in this meeting has a link to this video, that they know where to get it so they could hear it. And let us also make sure that the folks that put auction on the comment up until this point can get messages directly from our office or from myself. We can kind of coordinate that as a team to essentially make sure they know about this. They might have missed it because of work or whatever it is. So let's make sure they know about that as well. And until then, I'm gonna let you guys get back to doing what you're doing. If you have any questions about the Growth Collective or what we do at JDL, or what this group is all about, let us know. We're happy to have a conversation. The best way to start is by DMing me personally, and then I'll get you connected to either Joe or Candace or someone else at our office, and we'll take it from there. And maybe next week we can get you on as a guest if you want to kind of see how our other meetings are operating as far as what we do inside the Growth Collective, private coaching and mastermind group. There's a lot of cool stuff we're doing. We have a couple of spots and certain versions of the program that we could talk about too. So if you're interested in doing that, let us have a conversation. And until then, have a great rest of your Friday. God bless. And I'll talk to you guys real soon. Bye-bye. Look at that beat. Joe's getting some pizzazz now with this meeting. I love that. All right. If you don't like the music, just yell at Joe. He's the DJ today, so it's not my fault. I'm just kidding. If you have any suggestions or requests, just make sure you put that in the comments too, what we need as far as music. See you guys.
All right, guys. Thanks. Later.